5 years ago, a pregnant woman was expelled from her husband's home. Her mother-in-law was unyielding, and her husband merely watched in silence as his wife wept on the staircase. Years passed, and fate intervened. When she arrived to inspect the house, purchased at auction due to debt, her pale mother-in-law appeared at the threshold. Quote 0. Her ex-husband, with a joyful smile, rushed to embrace her. Quote 1. Greetings. Dear listeners, I am pleased to welcome you to my channel. I present to you a new, interesting story. Enjoy listening. Olya stepped out of the taxi and froze before the familiar house. The gray 3-story mansion with its peeling plaster looked far sadder than it had 5 years prior. Back then, it seemed like a fortress, an impenetrable stronghold from which she had been thrown out like a stray dog. Now, it was just an old structure with cracked walls and a leaning fence. Quote 2, she asked the driver, handing him a 5,000 ruble note. Quote 3. The driver, a middle-aged man with intelligent eyes, nodded, not even questioning why. It seemed Olya's face said it all. She took a folder of documents from her bag. Inside were papers from the arbitration court, the bankruptcy decree for Kirill Leonidovich Trubachev, and the certificate of ownership for this house. It now belonged to her, purchased for a ridiculously low sum at bankruptcy auctions for only $3 million. A house in the city center that had once been valued at a minimum of 12. Olya chuckled. Life at times can be surprisingly fair, rarely but effectively. 5 years ago, she stood on this very porch, a suitcase in one hand and 4 months pregnant. Antonina Fyodorovna, her mother-in-law, yelled so loudly that the entire house across the street could hear. "Get out! There's no need for you to be a parasite here. Do you think we'll support you?" And Sergei, her husband, stood aside and said nothing. He simply stood, eyes fixed on the floor, not uttering a word. He didn't even try to defend her. His mother screamed that Olya had deliberately gotten pregnant to latch onto their family, that she was after their possessions, and that such people should be driven out. And Sergei remained silent. Olya cried on the staircase then, not knowing where to go. Her parents had died 3 years earlier. She had no close friends left in the city. Everyone had moved away. She called a former classmate who let her stay for a night. And then Olya found a room in a dormitory, got a job as a sales assistant in a shop, and gave birth to her daughter, alone. No one from her husband's family appeared for the birth or afterward. Olya wrote to Sergei a couple of times. Silence. She finalized the divorce by mail. She didn't ask for alimony. She simply erased them all from her life and started anew. And then, what rarely happens, but does happen, occurred. She was noticed. Working as a sales assistant in an upscale houseware store, Olya once recommended a dinnerware set to a customer, chose accessories, and explained how to set a table. The customer turned out to be the owner of a small event agency and offered her a job as a decorator. Olya accepted. Within a year, she opened her own business. 2 years later, she was renting an office and had hired 3 employees, decorating weddings, corporate events, and private parties. She had found her niche, and money began to flow. Not exorbitant amounts, but enough to rent a decent apartment, dress her daughter, and save for the future. Darina grew into a bright, beautiful girl with character, as stubborn as her mother. Olya never told her who her father was. She simply said, quote 5. Darina didn't ask. They had their own life, and it was a good one. Then, 3 months ago, Olya was browsing bankruptcy auction websites, looking for a space for a new office, and stumbled upon a familiar address, the Trubachev house, listed for sale at auction. The debtor, Kirill Leonidovich Trubachev. Olya froze then, coffee cup in hand. She reread the information several times. It turned out Sergei's father had invested in some dubious construction project, taken out loans secured by the house, then everything collapsed, and he was declared bankrupt. His assets were seized, and debts remained. The house was going under the hammer. Olya spent a sleepless night, and the next morning she submitted an application to participate in the bidding. There weren't many competitors. The house required repairs. Although the area was central, it wasn't the most prestigious. Olya won the auction, made the payment, finalized the documents, and now stood here before the house that had once thrown her out onto the street while she was pregnant. She walked up to the porch and rang the doorbell. She had to wait a long time. Finally, the lock clicked, and Sergei appeared at the threshold. He had aged, grown flabby and bloated. His cheeks sagged, his eyes were dull. In sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, he looked like a typical couch potato. Sergei looked at her for a few seconds, blinking as if unable to focus. "Quote 6, he mumbled finally. "Quote 7, Olya said calmly. "Quote 8, quote 9. And then, from the depths of the house, a sharp female voice called out, "Quote 10. Antonina Fyodorovna appeared in the hallway, stooped, gray-haired, in a housecoat from under which peeked dirty slippers. She squinted, peering at the guest. Olya said. Antonina Fyodorovna stepped closer. Olya silently extended the folder. Her mother-in-law snatched it, her eyes darting over the papers. Her face contorted, turned pale, her lips trembled. She looked up at Olya, stared, and suddenly froze. Quote 15. Her voice broke into a squeak. Sergei flinched, finally recognizing his ex-wife. Quote 16, he repeated stupidly. Quote 17. Olya smiled, politely, coldly. Quote 18. Antonina Fyodorovna clutched the door jamb. She was shaking. Sergei stood with his jaw dropped, his gaze shifting from his mother to his ex-wife. Quote 19, he stammered. Quote 20. Quote 21. Olya clarified. Quote 22. Quote 23. Sergei still couldn't comprehend. I earned it. I'm an entrepreneur now, all legitimate, through the tax office. I have an event planning agency. Business is going well. An agency, he repeated, as if it were a foreign word. Antonina Fyodorovna suddenly straightened up. Her face, previously pale, turned pink. Her eyes sparkled. She stepped forward, spreading her arms. Olenka, my darling. Her voice became syrupy, falsely affectionate. Well, here we are, reunited. We were thinking about you, worrying about you, right, Serja? Sergei nodded, picking up the cue. Yes, of course. We wanted to find you, but we didn't know where. You understand, darling? Quote 28. That it all happened back then? Well, out of foolishness, emotions, nerves. I didn't mean any harm. It's just that we were in a difficult situation. And then, her with a child, a freeloader who's parasitizing your family. That's what you said then, Antonina Fyodorovna. Oh, my dear, I was just upset. Don't hold a grudge. All families argue. The important thing is that we are reunited now. You saved us. You bought the house, so you'll help us too, right? Darling, you won't kick us out. We're family after all. Serja, he's your husband. Ex-husband, Olya corrected. We divorced 5 years ago. Or did you forget? Well, that's just a formality. We can get it all back. We loved each other. You loved me. You loved me when your mother threw a pregnant wife onto the street. Olya, let's not dredge up the past. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Mother was pressuring me. Father was shouting. I'm weak. Yes, I admit it. But everything can be fixed now. Fixed, Olya echoed. From the depths of the house, Kirill Leonidovich emerged, stooped, gray-haired in a rumpled shirt. He stopped, surveyed the scene, and looked at Olya. Is this the new owner? He asked tiredly. Not new, Antonina Fyodorovna replied. This is Serja's wife, Olka, back. Ah, the one they kicked out. So, what does she want? Kirill, she bought the house. Our house. So, she bought it legally. Will you evict us? Yes. You have 1 month to move out. You can take your personal belongings. A month? Are you serious? We have nowhere to go. And I had somewhere to go 5 years ago when you threw me out onto the street with a baby. I had an apartment, parents, some money. But that's different." Antonina Fyodorovna waved her hands. "We're family, blood relatives. Quote underscore 58 underscore blood relatives. Quote 59. Where were you when I gave birth? When I lived in a dormitory with an infant for the first 6 months? When I worked 12 hours a day to rent a room? Quote 60. We didn't know. Sergei tried to play the victim. You disappeared yourself, didn't stay in touch. I wrote to you twice. You didn't even reply. Sergei opened his mouth, closed it, and looked away. Mother forbade it, he mumbled. Oh, so that's how it is. Quote 64. Now you're going to blame everything on Mother. Olya took out her phone and dialed. Hello, Mikhail. Yes, I'm here. No, they refused to leave voluntarily. You can prepare the eviction documents. Excellent, I'll be waiting. She put her phone away and looked at the frozen family. This is my lawyer. If you don't vacate the house within a month, the bailiffs will evict you. Your belongings will be put on the street, and the locks will be changed. It will be unpleasant and humiliating. I advise you to leave amicably. How dare you, ungrateful! Please don't, Olya said quietly. You humiliated me once. There won't be a second time. You'll regret this, she hissed. We'll sue you. We'll find a way to deal with you. Sue us, Olya shrugged. All the documents are in order. The house was purchased legally. The auction was conducted according to bankruptcy procedures. You have no rights to this property. Kirill Leonidovich suddenly let out a hoarse laugh. Tonya, shut up. She's right. It's our fault. We screwed everything up. And there's nothing to whine about now. Kirill, what are you talking about? I'm speaking the truth. 5 years ago, we kicked the girl out onto the street because greed consumed us. We thought we'd save money on her, and now she's back and taken our last. He paused. Fair. Olya looked at him with unexpected respect. Where will you live? She asked. Are there options? We'll ask my brother. We'll survive at the dacha in the Moscow region. It's not the first time. And Serja will go with us. Where else can he go? No job, no wife, no brains. I have a daughter, Darina. She's 5 years old. Smart, beautiful. I raised her alone. Without you. Daughter. Sergei raised his head. We have a daughter. I have a daughter, Olya corrected. You have no one. She went out, closed the door behind her, and walked towards the taxi. The driver was already waiting, opening the back door. How did it go? He asked. Normally, Olya settled into the seat. Let's go home. The taxi pulled away. Olya looked out the window at the receding house. Inside her, there was no triumph, no schadenfreude, only a strange emptiness, like after a long illness, when the fever subsides and weakness remains. She took out her phone and typed a message to the nanny. Be home soon. Tell Darina we're going to the cinema tonight. A month later, the Trubachevs moved out, quietly, without scandal. Kirill Leonidovich indeed took his family to his brother in the Moscow region. Olya hired a construction crew and began renovations. She decided to turn the house into her agency's office with a showroom. There was enough space. One day, as the workers were stripping old wallpaper in the living room, they found a baby pacifier and a worn teddy bear behind the radiator. Olya picked them up. The pacifier was hers. She remembered its blue rim. The bear, too. So, when she was kicked out, she had forgotten something or simply hadn't had time to pack it. And the items had lain there for 5 years. Olya squeezed the toy in her hand, then placed it in a box. That was another life, one where she was weak and dependent. Now, she was strong and free. The agency opened 3 months later. Clients, partners, and journalists attended the opening. Olya stood in the renovated hall, smiling, drinking champagne. Darina ran among the guests in a beautiful dress, laughing. Her friend, who had once let Olya stay overnight, was by her side. Now, she had become a business partner. Everything was good, truly. 6 months later, Olya accidentally stumbled upon a social media post. Sergei had married some girl from a neighboring village where he now lived. The wedding, judging by the photos, hadn't happened. They had simply registered their marriage. In the photo, Sergei looked even more bloated. The bride looked tired and displeased. Olya scrolled further, not lingering. She was indifferent. One cold November evening, as Olya was picking up Darina from kindergarten, she was called out from the entrance. She turned around and saw Antonina Fyodorovna. She looked even worse than she had 6 months prior, stooped in a cheap jacket, with dull eyes. Quote, 95, she began quietly. Quote, 96. Olya nodded silently. Darina pressed against her mother's leg, curiously examining the unfamiliar grandmother. This is my granddaughter. Antonina Fyodorovna looked at the girl with a kind of greedy longing. No, Olya said clearly. This is my daughter. Antonina Fyodorovna swallowed, then was silent. I came to ask. Sergei got married. His wife is pregnant, and they have nowhere to live. I thought, perhaps, you could rent them a room in the house for a symbolic fee. No, Olya cut her off, and don't approach us again. Olya took Darina's hand and walked away. The girl looked back. Mom, who is that? No one, darling, just a stranger. They walked through the evening city, past glowing shop windows, past hurrying people. Darina chattered about kindergarten, friends, and a new toy she wanted for her birthday. Olya listened, smiled, and replied. Many years later, when Darina turned 16, she asked directly, Mom, who is my father? They were sitting in the kitchen drinking tea. It was raining outside. Olya looked at her daughter, a tall, beautiful, intelligent girl with a firm character and clear eyes, and realized the time had come for the truth. His name is Sergei, she said calmly, but he was never your father. She told the story without embellishment, simply and honestly. Darina listened in silence. When Olya finished, her daughter looked out the window for a long time, then nodded. I understand. So I only have you, and that's enough for me. Olya hugged her tightly, so tight it made her bones creak, and at that moment she knew that everything, absolutely everything, had been done right.